Welcome, beautiful soul. It's time to remember who we are. You were born for this moment, this breath. Nature teaches us and reminds us that whatever it is that we are searching for, that whatever our hearts and souls are longing for, we must know our unlimited power and worth. It's all already within us. So thank you for saying yes to this moment. Thank you for saying yes to this journey. And most of all, thank you for saying yes to yourself. Welcome, beautiful soul. Welcome, beautiful soul. I'm so delighted that you are here sharing time and space with us. We have a fabulous guest with us today. You're going to hear from Patty Kingsbaker. And I describe her as this baddie agent who has gone through this amazing metamorphosis to become a beautiful artist. And there's so much more beneath the surface to this journey. Today, she's prepared to have a really honest and uplifting share about many of the lessons and the wisdom from her journey. Now, you know, we always start with our delicious, beautiful breath. So I invite you all to close your eyes if you're able to safely do so. And we're going to practice breathing. This is our time to simply notice the breath moving in and out of our nose. Without changing it, we're simply being a witness to the inhale and the exhale. And this is also our time to give lovely thanks to ourselves, being grateful that we are here, that we are alive, grateful for ourselves. And as we continue to breathe, we also give thanks to the beautiful breath of life moving through us with every inhale and exhale. This beautiful breath of life connecting us to all of life all around us. And as we are breathing, this is our time to intentionally receive all that is for us. With every inhale, we are receiving every bit of peace and love and joy and nourishment that is for us. We breathe in, replenishing assurance, all of the support, all of the provision, the abundance, and of course the love that is for us. And we let our exhale be a reminder to release and let go of anything that either knowingly or unknowingly that is not serving us. that we can let go of. Maybe it's a little bit of stress or worry. We can pause the monkey mind, I call it, those thoughts that are spinning. This is our time to invite a release, a pause, a letting go. Any doubt and criticism that we've been carrying. Any concern about our last conversation with someone or an upcoming one. We simply pause and let it go as we put our attention on the lovely inhale and exhale. And if you're able to, maybe you want to put your hands on your heart as we notice that breath moving and as we perhaps even feel our heartbeat. And I invite you, of course, to do our 5-5-5 breath with me. And all that is a simple inhale for 5 seconds. Then we hold it for 5 seconds, like holding the air in a balloon. And then we're going to exhale for 5 seconds, like we're releasing that air in the balloon. So if you're able to join me, let's go ahead and do a nice deep inhale for 5. And now hold it. And slowly let it go. And keeping your eyes closed for another moment, we put our attention on that beautiful heart center, that inner heart, even beyond our emotions, the beautiful place of truth and presence, with the capital T for truth, the capital P for presence. This beautiful inner essence, we put our attention here, and with love, we let ourselves be open for all that is emerging for us, for all that we're about to hear, all that we're about to receive. We just let ourselves be open, reminding ourselves that everything that we need, all of our truth, is truly already within us, waiting to emerge. That our answers, our confirmations, are in this deep reservoir of our true essence already within us. And so we make space now to be ready to receive with gentleness and compassion. And so whenever you're ready, you can slowly come back and open your eyes. Whew, it's always so delicious. I am so just delighted, thrilled. I don't have enough adjectives to describe how I'm feeling. Like what a treasure you all are in for. I've known Patty since I first moved to Denver, Colorado, and that was back in 1999. And to see and connect with Patty today, knowing fully that she hasn't necessarily, changed bodies, that she didn't become someone different, and yet she is. This beautiful metamorphosis of her life did not come easy, and she will talk about her experiences, and I hope you are open to hear what she went through as an encouragement, a hope, a light, a reminder of the grace and the support that is available for us when we say yes to growing and expanding and also facing the tough parts of who we are and our experiences. So with that said, I'm going to bring Patty on right now. This is Patty Kingsbaker. Welcome, Patty.
Hi, Michanda.
I am so thrilled that Patty is here. Now, I talked about meeting Patty back in 1999. Today, she is joining us from Colorado Springs, but her journey has taken her so much farther. I want to make sure that you all see this book. We're going to be referring to this today. So I'm going to hold it up as well, and then we're going to have also a graphic for you. But this is the book that Patty wrote. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted her to come on today. I wanted her to come on, period, because her just metamorphosis is just, I hope it encourages anyone who has that little nudging that there's more to ask the question, what is that? And what does that mean for me? But her book, it's called Stumbling into Serenity. And it's really a guide to recovering your life. And that is really what Patty is an example of what it means to recover your life. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment because I want to give Patty a chance to maybe in her own words, because I have my own words, but I want her to share in her words. When you think about this metamorphosis that you've gone through, before we dive into it, I just want to hear on the broad terms, what do you think about when I describe you as this baddie agent to, I can't use the word I'd really use. You guys, you'll see it's like bad, and then I had to leave out a couple letters there so everyone can listen to it. But you get the idea, a bad blankety blank agent to the artist that she is and how she stumbled into Serenity. But when you look back, what do you see in this big journey?
Well, actually, my journey started 37 years ago. So without this journey, I couldn't have accomplished what I did professionally.
Yeah.
Because this journey gave me the courage and the self-awareness, and I built my business on these principles that are in this book. So it's been a part of my life for a long time, but and then I came to a point where it was time for a change, and that's when I got into the art, and that's when I created this book.
Which is so amazing. So when I describe Patty as an agent, she was a talent agent. I should be more specific. So she's representing all of these artists, these actors and performers, and dealing with companies who were booking these agents. And, oh my, if you could see her working a phone like no one you've ever seen, and to be able to transmit the power of a volcano through a phone line.
Well, and it was, the thing is, Michanda, it was built on honesty.
Yes.
And the clients who hired my actors came to know me for that. I was going to tell them the truth.
Yes.
And I didn't sell what I didn't have. I had the best actors in Colorado, without doubt. And I came to be known for that. And when I said, when I told clients, yeah, you can hire this actor, but what you see is what you're going to get. But if you hire this one, who may not audition well, all right, but you get that person on set and they are going to give you layers and layers. And they came to understand that I always told them the truth.
Well, that word right there, truth, is a great segue, because It's so easy in our world. I'll speak about me. I've shared in this podcast my journey of like a certain part of my life, Patty. I was not okay with even knowing my truth, let alone living according to it. Like I was so far removed from it because I had become so conditioned to following this path that I somehow believed was mine, but yet it wasn't. It was what I thought was the right thing to do. It was me following, these steps that I thought would like lead to success and to joy and to like, and all it led to was misery because I was so far away from my truth. And so I want you to speak about what has that meant for you, this journey and the word truth.
Wow. If we're still talking about the business, what happened?
We can talk about any of it, the business and all of it.
In the beginning, I had started in casting and then I was a producer. And so when I became an agent, I had worked with agents, but I knew what I didn't like about agents, but I really didn't know how to be an agent. So what I did was I started calling producers and clients and saying, I'm starting a new agency here, and what do you need from me? What do you need? What do you look for? And I built my business on those conversations. So
that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And so as you keep going.
Well, was it just that honest dialogue, Yeah, I mean, I could talk about the business, I guess, forever.
Well, it's, the themes are really powerful, which is why I'm glad you're talking about it in terms of being an agent, because if any of you have the privilege of getting to meet Patty today, and I hope you will, because like I said, she has this fabulous book, and I'm hoping that she'll maybe start going on tour with this and speaking more, because what's inside of this book is her artistry. And we're going to talk about some of the themes in the book. Like, so she has this beautiful artwork. And then what you can't read here, but she'll read for us today, are these lovely poems. And they're not just lovely because she's using beautiful words. They're lovely. I'm going back to that word truth because it's tied to vulnerability. And this book is an example of a vulnerability in a way that I think many of us are learning, how to live in this place of tremendous vulnerability and truth at the same time. And it didn't come easy, and yet you can feel a grace through this, still with an understanding that she didn't go through this overnight. So Patty, I want you to share what made you decide to write this beautiful guide to recovering your life and what that has meant for you.
Well, I was living in Creed because I had sold my business, and I moved to Creed because I was looking for an authenticity in my life that I felt was missing. And I had dabbled in art over the years, but I got to create it, and then I was able to create this space where I could create art. And so I started doing that, and then there was a woman in town who managed a gift shop, and she wanted to see my art. Long story short, she wanted to carry it, and then it started selling. So then that got me really full going on the art. It's like, wow, people really like it. And but everything I was creating was nature. It was flowers, it was trees, and I wanted to kind of go in a different direction. And I don't know what came first, but I started thinking about the 12 principles of recovery. And I thought, well, that might be let's play with that, like, let's take each principle and meditate on it and see what you come up with. And that's what happened. So, I mean, I didn't intend to do a book. I was creating art around that principle. But after I created the 12 pieces of art, then I started writing about each of them. And then it just seemed like I started seeing so many people struggling and so many people in pain. This all happened during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I just thought, wow, maybe if I put it in a book, it could help somebody. You know, my process helped me. Maybe I should pass that on.
And those are some really, well, first I want to set, she said Creed. I want to go back for our listeners who don't know. Creed is in Creed, Colorado. And if you've ever been to, the sand dunes, it's not too far from there. However, it's this beautiful area. If you can get past that skinny little highway on the way, I tell her it always terrifies me. I want to just close my eyes. This little skinny highway where it looks like you can fall off into the depths of the unknown. But if you make it through that little stretch of highway, it's only about maybe 15 minutes or so of that stretch. And this beautiful town that also was a mining area, but now is filled with so much just quiet, beautiful nature. The views are spectacular. There's artistry there. There's so many artists. There's theater. There are visual artists like Patty, sculptors, and just a lot of people who appreciate being connected to nature. So it's a beautiful area that she's leaving this hustle and bustle of, agency life in Metro Denver, connected to people literally all over. It's not just in Denver. Like, she's connected to people, on the coast, and, just loving theater in New York, like just on top of everything, whether it's television, film, stage. I mean, Patty was so connected in that world, and then deciding to make this huge, 180 into a quiet area where you heard. Go ahead.
I had to, at that time, I knew that I had to completely disconnect. I remember walking into a room one night, and I heard, how you'll pick up on a conversation, and I heard this girl say to the other girl, "That's Patty Kingsbaker," and I was like, "What?" Because one of the things that I used to get so intimidated by people that I thought were successful and, had it all together, and, and it's such a facade. It's something we create in our minds. But I made a point later in the evening of going over and introducing myself to them, and finding out who they were, and we got into a discussion. I kind of brought it back around about making connection and not being afraid to talk to anybody that was in the room that night. And, the thing is I wanted to impress on them that I was nobody special. I just had a job that got a lot of attention. And, it kills me when young people or anybody gets intimidated by somebody else's presence, instead of just opening up our curiosity about who are they and what might I learn from this person.
Yes, and yes. And what do we learn about ourselves? I feel like that's the part that can take us, at least it took me decades, Patty, to really know who I am, let alone be able to fully walk into a space as me, not as the mask that I was wearing, but fully as me. That took a whole reacquainting. And you've used the word recovery, and that is a powerful word because it can mean so many things. I feel like all of us are on a place of recovering the truth of who we are. And I want you to speak about what recovery has meant for you? We
Mhm.
know the terms recovery as it relates to people, recovering their health, recovering to their life. And you use that, a guide to recovering your life. How did you recover your life? What did that mean for you? And how did you start that process?
Well, in my case, it was a recovery from alcohol
Yes.
and occasional drugs. I had been using substances for years to mask my insecurities, to make me comfortable enough to walk into a room,
Yes.
to not feel my feelings. And I hit a wall. I hit a wall, and I had to get help.
And so getting help, our culture likes to think I can just do, a couple of little changes and then I'll be okay. This book lets me know that
It's
you
a
didn't just
journey.
do that. I'm gonna hold it this way. Your book lets me know every
No,
chapter that it
no.
wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna go get a little help for the weekend and then I'm gonna be fine. Like, your book lets us know that, like, wow, like I said, I knew Patty back in 1999. I didn't know many of these things about you. I didn't know that you decided to go back and look at
Yeah.
childhood on. That this really was looking at yourself, and not just looking, but diving in an excavation. And yet I hear such gentleness with yourself as you're going through. So what was it like for you, Patty?
Well, first off, I had to get honest. I had been blaming the world for my unhappiness. It was my childhood, and then it was jobs, and then it was my husband, or it was something that you know it it was the rest of the world was making me unhappy. If only they would change. If only.
Yes.
And I after changing jobs, getting a divorce, doing geographical moves, I landed in a place where I was still unhappy. And
Yeah.
you know, this, I got to get honest. I have to, this, I'm the one that's broken, not the world. And that was my first step towards recovery, was just getting honest with myself that I was the problem, not the outside things.
I'm going to see if our producer Sonia can hold up or pull up the image of what you created related to here is your book, Stumbling into Serenity, and there is the aspect of honesty, because I think that theme is so powerful, and I want you to get ready to read for us, Patty,
Okay.
because I think that every part of this book there are themes to her journey, and they're themes that she went through, and they're universal for all of us. So whether or not you're recovering from, whether it's alcohol or substances, some of us are recovering from unhealthy relationships, whether it's with food, whether it's with media, whether it's with pornography, whether it's with putting ourselves in unhealthy situations. I mean, the list goes on, all the ways that we numb ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not being honest, and we're hiding behind something to prevent us from feeling what we don't want to feel. And so her aspect on honesty is, if you can see, I'm going to have her read. Basically, it's a poem. And this book is such a gift to any of us who are ready to get real about living a better life. So I'm going to have you read the I don't want to call it a chapter, but the theme on honesty. And maybe Sonia is going to be able to pull up that image of, there we go. It's so powerful. Look at that. Like it's
Yeah.
you looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read for us.
Okay. Honesty. I had spent my life feeling uncomfortable in my skin. I bounced between false pride and self-loathing. I was on a continual search for approval from the people in my life. My substance abuse masked those feelings in the beginning, but as I continued to look outside of myself for someone or something to make me happy, I only found repeated disappointment and cause for blame. I ultimately landed at a level of pain that was unbearable. I had to take an honest look at myself. Admitting that something inside of me was broken was my first step towards recovery.
So huge. And so when I think about how easy it is for us to be dishonest and to be in denial, when I look at my own life and I say, Michanda, when you were, it was when I was moving too quickly. That's one theme, is I was just going, I wanted to just blow through each moment and just get to the next one, just get to the next one, just get, like I was racing to get out of my own skin. And the honest piece was a slow down and a look at the painful areas that I was trying so hard to skip over.
Well, and it's hard. It's the hardest. This principle is the hardest.
Yeah.
Because to finally stop playing the blame game and take responsibility for yourself it can be painful. It can be hard, but it's essential. It is so essential, or it was for me, to be able to finally get on a path where I felt like I was living a whole life.
And I want to talk about some of these other themes. There's so many in the book. Of course, there are 12. We're going to just talk about a few because we can't go through all of them. But I want to show some of the artwork as we're talking about some of these other themes. And the one that I think is so,
Sure.
That gets such a, we don't know how to experience. I don't think it's revered enough in our culture. Right now, our culture tends to give the attention to the loudest voice in the room, to the person who has the most so-called power, to who has the most resources, money, all of that. People are chasing this idea of, being important, of this influence, without understanding who we are. What would you say to that?
My greatest happiness has come from getting to know myself.
Yes.
And really, truly, following my heart and, just living with authenticity. I don't know.
It's so huge. It's so, too bad our school doesn't teach us this. Like, we learn reading, we learn math, we learn science. If we had learned how to be honest with ourselves, if we learned how to admit our mistakes, take responsibility, not blame, not complain.
Oh, please. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
All of that. I would love for Sonia to show the image of humility, because this is the one that I think that our culture also runs away from. There's not this, I love the word you said, that you opened myself up to gratitude. I opened myself up to gratitude. I now understood that I wasn't in charge and I wasn't alone. I asked for help. Now, that sounds really lovely, Patty, but what was it? But let's talk about, what is it really like experiencing asking for help and admitting that I'm not in charge?
I never felt like I really had a spiritual connection. I was raised in a certain religion. I had an issue around organized religion.
Yes.
I had never felt any connection. it wasn't there. And then I actually had an experience on a beach in Ensenada, Mexico, where for the first time in my life, I experienced a connection with a higher power. And
Yes.
once that happened, once I truly understood, yes, there is a power greater than me that is here with me and for me, then the path got easier. And I
Well,
didn't understand humility. I mean, I could look it
yes.
up in the dictionary, but I didn't truly understand what that was until one night I was on my knees and I truly felt it. I went, oh, this is it. I'm not in charge and I'm not alone. And it was such a relief. It was
Yes.
just a total relief to know that I wasn't on this journey by myself.
And I think that's not, I know from my own experience. It's frightening and assuring at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Admit that everything I had constructed was falling apart and it needed to, so that I could get to the core of who I really am and to be able to do what I had always feared, which was admitting I'm not okay and then asking for help.
Yeah. Yeah. And there have been a lot of people in my life who have helped me. And one of the best lessons I learned early on, because I had a fabulous mentor by the name of Al Grad, who I worked for in Phoenix. And what the best lesson he taught me was that I don't have to know it all.
Mm.
I don't have to have all the answers. Okay. There are people that have them. I can pick up a phone and ask. And that lesson taught me how to build my business.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in business, I would often encounter people who acted like they had all the answers. They knew everything. They were, and it's like no, and it's so. Here's a story. I had a producer come in from Los Angeles, and he called, and we were on the phone, and he was just an a-hole,
Yes, we understand.
Yeah, and he had such an attitude, and suddenly it occurred to me, and I said, "What are you afraid of?"
Yes.
And he was like, he just stopped in his tracks, and he goes, "Excuse me?" I said, "What are you?" My experience has showed me that people who come on with the kind of attitude that you are showing me today are afraid of something. If you tell me what it is you're afraid of, maybe I can help.
Yes.
Well, he was like, "It's first time in Denver. I don't know anybody here. I don't know what kind of crew I'm going to get." He was scared.
Yes.
So I was like, "Look, number one, we have the best crews here in Colorado. They have worked on film. They've worked on television. You are going to get amazing support here. And if you have any questions, pick up the phone, call me. If you want to know about somebody, let me know. If I don't know them and can't vouch for them, I'll find somebody who can." And long story short, he did his shoot, and he ended up calling me at the end of it and thanking me, but that's what happens.
Yes.
It's like we get scared and it comes out in just It's attitude.
100. I often say, and Michanda, you are your worst self when you are responding and making choice out of fear.
Yes.
And I make the distinction that we all are going to feel fear. We're going to experience the feeling, and it's a choice to decide, am I going to let that drive the car? But we don't even know that fear is driving, because we had, in the example that you just provided, this bravado, this attitude that she's like, I'm not scared, like I'm this and that. And it's actually like, no, that's the very sign that we're in fear, when we're not being our true selves.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I'd love for Sonia to show us the picture, and all of you, hopefully you get to meet Sonia one day, because she's fabulous. And this woman has more truth and examples than like a little bit. So one day I'm going to get her to be a guest on us here, so you can like see who this mysterious Sonia is. But I would love for her to pull up Courage right now, so you can see the artistry that Patty created. Describe, because if you are looking at this, I see all of these beautiful like examples. What was your inspiration, and what were you wanting to communicate with this imagery of courage?
Well, I had to take an inventory of my life.
Yes.
Okay. And it had to be in depth. It had to be a moral inventory. I had to look at where my fears, my selfishness, my dishonesty, resentments, pridefulness, judgments.
All the fun stuff, yeah.
Oh, God. And it had just, I had to take a look at how that had damaged me and had damaged my relationships with the people in my life. And that's a hard one to unpack. It can be painful. But I
think it is painful, Patty. Let's just be honest. I don't think it can be. I think it is painful when we've been living in a different way. It's painful.
Yes. Yeah. But it's so worth it to finally look at, who we are and how we have lived our lives, where we've gotten off track, what character defects we carry into life, my selfishness, my, and take an honest look at it.
And so as you created, and you have this imagery here, like if you can see people who are at home and are able to watch, or in your car or wherever you might be, like there's parts of a flower. I see an eye. I see a stem. I see shapes. I see all of these different colors. What does this symbolize for you?
Just all the boxes that I had to unpack.
Yeah.
It's, and I started that journey with my resentments. Listing the resentments I had in my life, because they were keeping me locked.
Yes. I mean, resentment is so, wow, that you said a lot right there. You've said a lot the whole time, any of us who've been paying attention here. I want to talk about pain and resentment and fear and courage, because they all kind of go hand in hand, where the fear of experiencing the pain can keep us locked into a pattern that energy is so unhealthy for us. It has to be released some way. And then sometimes it gets released through resentment, which is an unhealthy release of it, until we're ready to actually go through the pain, because what's waiting for us is so much better than the continual pain, the continual resentment, to actually have more. Go ahead, Patty.
When I started my resentment list, the first person that came up on my list was my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom was an alcoholic. So my childhood was filled with a lot of uncertainty and ruined, So I started listing my resentments towards my mom.
Yes. Yes.
And pages of just, you ruined this, you ruined that, you embarrassed me here, you weren't here for me, you didn't, and it got so painful writing all this out. I called a friend of mine and I said, oh God, I don't think I can do this. And she said, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Keep going. Keep going. And so the boys were younger then, and I told them I was going to the store. So I got in the car and I drove over to this empty parking lot so I could just scream. And I remember I was just pounding on my steering wheel and asking God, where are you now? Where are you now that I'm in this much pain? How do I get through this? And I cried and just, let it all go and thought, okay, I can go back home now. I started my car, and the song that came on the radio was by the Police, Every Step You Take. And it was like, I'll be watching you every step you take, every smile you fake. And I got chills all over. To me, that wasn't a coincidence. So I went home and I wrote a letter to my mom that was filled with, I wish, you could have believed in me. I wish you had gotten sober. I wish. And I went to bed. And I got up the next morning, and for the first time in my life, I was able to sit down and write my mother a love letter. Because I finally understood. I got out from under all the resentment and all the blame and realized she was sick. She had a problem. She did the absolute best she could. And I could either continue to carry all that with me, or I could take off the backpack of resentment and move forward and honor her for how she tried the best she could. And that's all we can do. Sometimes it's just what it is. But we either continue to carry that with us and blame our childhood for our horrible life. We let it go. Somebody told me the other day, we either let go or we get dragged. Sometimes we have to let it go.
Yes. That would be a good t-shirt, let go or get dragged. But yes, we definitely have space. We definitely have space to practice acknowledging the resentments, because I think we can be so angry, and I love you being so honest about that visual, like pounding and screaming in the car, like because it's so uncomfortable. And then to have this beautiful wisdom that instructed you, like, why don't you write them down so we get this out of us? And as we're writing it down, you were able to like see everything that angers us and that we're upset and we wish we're different. And it brings us back to, I love this acceptance, this grace to know that we're all doing the best we can, and we're all imperfectly who we are. And there's no, and we can't judge anyone.
And then I was able to, no. I was finally able to see the lessons that I took from my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned how to walk into a room, read it. You have to be a child of an alcoholic to really, truly understand that. You read the room. And that served me really well in life and in business. Forgiveness. There is such a freedom in finally forgiving.
Yes. Well, you all can see that I could have Patty here for like 2 more hours, and we have so much more to talk about. I want you to please turn to the page of perseverance, because I really want you to read that for us. And because we're all on this journey, and it's not, and it takes so much more than the flick of a light switch. It's like continually choosing and learning a whole new path and a whole new love for ourselves, and being willing to ing it. You hear me talk about that. We're all inging. We're still going. It's not over. We're still practicing. So I'd love for Patty to read. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Even before you read, if something came to you.
No, I'm saying yes, it is. It continues. Yes. Okay, perseverance.
Okay. Yes.
Recovery has not made me a perfect person. I need to take a daily inventory, searching for where I may have been selfish, dishonest, or afraid. Was I thinking of myself most of the day, or of what I could do for others? What could I have done better? And then I need to make a plan to take any corrective action necessary. This journey has taught me that I am responsible for my own happiness. My life is a garden, and it takes perseverance to keep it thriving.
That's so, I mean, yes, I just have to pause there for a second, Patty, and let that sink in.
I love at the grand old age of 75, Michanda, that I still can have aha moments, that I can still, I could hold these long time beliefs and realize, oh, that's not how it is at all. And that to me is one of the greatest joys of life and of getting older, because I'm more open to that, to being wrong, or being, I mean, the day that I act like I have all the answers, I'm in big trouble, big trouble, because the only answers I actually have come from my own experience. So my experience may not be your experience, but we have to, for me, it was important that I stay open and willing to see the possibilities for me, to take difficult and to be open, to stay open. That's all.
Yes. If you are able to speak to someone who was where you were earlier, if you were wound the tape when you didn't know all these principles, when the pain was still simmering within you without even understanding the root of that pain, what would you say to yourself back then, and maybe to that person who's listening, who is feeling something similar, who is going through something similar?
The thing that keeps, there's hope.
Yes.
There's hope. You don't have to stay stuck. You do not have to stay unhappy. You're not a tree. You can get up and move. Take a risk. Don't be afraid. It's a glorious journey if you just open up to the possibilities that it can change.
And then what would be your hope for people who read this book? Because if you can't tell, I want everybody to read this book. I feel like it's a beautiful gift for ourselves to give it to you, Like, buy this book and you can have it for yourself to keep at home. And it's a beautiful gift to give to someone. You know, very honestly, years ago, I recognized when we're invited to someone's house, it used to be the quick stop to get a bottle of wine. And we eventually stopped doing that, saying we don't know someone's story. And is that the healthiest gift I can give someone? When we had to look at our own family's history and say, well, wow, we certainly don't need people bringing wine, knowing our family story with alcohol and so many things that we could bring. And I always feel like, oh my gosh, what you could bring, it's always okay to bring is a book. You can give someone a book. You can bring a book. And so I'm like, stumbling into Serenity is such a beautiful gift to give someone. And so what would be your hope, Patty, for when people have this book, when they get it for themselves, when they give it to someone else as a gift? What do you hope they take from this, from your journey? What's your hope? Let me just stop there. What's your hope, Patty?
My hope in doing this book was that something I had shared, would speak to someone's heart and light their path.
It's so beautiful.
And it may be just one of the principles that are in the book that gives someone an aha moment, or they're able to apply it to their own life and go, oh, wow. I hope.
Well, I agree with you. That is definitely my hope. I feel confident that there's so much in this book. I was reading it on a plane and I had to text Patty, like, I'm on a plane. I just finished reading. This is so great. Just landed. I have to tell you right now, because it gave me chills to read her honesty, her vulnerability. And Patty, I think we need more of that in this world, for us to be willing to peel away the mask, to look honestly at ourselves, and to do it with not this self-loathing and this further judgment and criticism, but with so much tenderness and gentleness, because maybe we haven't received it yet in this world yet. Maybe we haven't received enough gentleness and kindness and tenderness, and maybe we're learning that like a new language. And that is what I hope people get from this, is that the gentleness of this powerful journey of courage gives people permission to say, perhaps, why not? Okay, for whatever it is that is keeping us stuck, because there's always another layer. I don't feel like we're ever done in this journey. I say healing is an ing. Yes, there's certain things that I'm healed from, but it's an ing to stay in the place of healing. Absolutely. It's not an over and done with. Like, I'm constantly choosing choices that contribute to the healing, so it sustains.
And in doing what you're doing, Michanda, with your podcast and sharing your journey, people, they need hope.
100.
They need
100.
Hope. That
100. Well, here are two of us telling you, if you're watching this, that it's possible. And we hope that you at home know, you in your car, you wherever you are, that you know that it's possible. I've said it enough times, and I'm going to say it one more time. Please consider getting this book as a gift to yourself, as a gift to someone else, because it's rare that I find something that penetrates the noise of so much out there. There's so much out there. And I feel like we owe it to ourselves to feed ourselves, to nourish ourselves with something that's going to remind us that, one, we're not alone, two, that there's more, and three, it's all within us. If we're willing to do it with gentleness, with courage, one breath at a time. I love that you heard Patty's story, that song came on, and that's a word of truth for all of us. Every breath we take, every step we take, that we're not alone, that whether you call it God, the universe, source, I say earth, wind, fire, I don't care what you call it, we all have an experience that there is more, and that more also resides right here within us, and we have access to it.
And that's another thing I talk about in the book is the different portals to spirituality. And that's where I've had an issue when a religion says this is the way. No,
Yeah.
I believe the universe has created multiple portals. You just have to be willing. Seek and you shall find. You will find your portal.
Well, I'm going to let us wrap up with those words because I think they're a beautiful reminder for us to keep seeking, to know that it's there, to yes, we believe you're going to find it, to continue with hope, to know we're all in the journey of INGing, and to be kind and gentle with ourselves. So I thank all of you for being with us. I thank you, Patty, for sharing so openly and generously with us. I'm so grateful. I want you to please go to her website, pattykingsbaker.com. That's how you order this book. I've been talking about it for the last, hour here. Order it, pattykingsbaker.com. Share it with someone you care about. Share it with yourself. And I thank all of you for giving time and space to be with us today. And I thank you most of all for being who you already are, beautiful soul. Thank you, beautiful soul, for remembering who we are and for making time and space to be with us today. As you go forward on your journey to the known and unknown places, continue to listen to your inner heart and honor your soul, because your answers are always within you. Please consider supporting us in spreading more light and love with this message by simply liking the video below, subscribing, and consider sharing as well. Most of all, take gentle care and breathe. We see you. We thank you, beautiful soul.